The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
That was actually one of our guys who came up with the theme of the
That's
show.
right. I love that theme music. It gets me hyped up every time.
Absolutely. It's nice that we created it. The Zero Company created it. So anyway, welcome back to the Bliss Business Podcast. I'm covering for Steven Sakach today. And here we explore how empathy, connection, and purpose transform businesses from the inside out. I'm Tullio, co-hosting with Mike today. Research shows that 79% of consumers prefer to engage with brands that foster a sense of community. Building strong connections is no longer a nice to have. It is a driver for loyalty, engagement, and growth. And today's guest is no exception to the quality of creating that kind of community. Let's get to know him. Mike, please introduce our guest today.
Oh, and I'm super pumped to introduce Will Bartholomew. He's the founder and the CEO of D1 Training, and one of the fastest growing fitness franchises in the US right now. And with over 150 facilities open and actually 250 more in development, D1 has redefined how athletes are training by really bringing that Division I level performance training to people of all ages and of all skill levels, which we know is so needed. Now, Will's journey began as a 3-sport all-state athlete in Nashville before earning a football scholarship at the University of Tennessee, where he played fullback alongside Peyton Manning. He was part of the 1998 National Championship team. He captained the 2001 squad and later signed with the Denver Broncos. Unfortunately, before a career-ending injury shifted his path to entrepreneurship, which I think from what we'll hear on the show today, we're glad that he has been on this path. And in fact, in 2003 is when Will launched the first D1 facility in Nashville, really rooted in the belief that anyone can benefit from the rigor, the structure, and really what we're going to talk about today, the camaraderie of that Division I style training. And under his leadership, D1 has earned recognition on Entrepreneur Magazine's Franchise 500, the Inc. 5000 list, and was named a top 30 gym in America by Men's Health. So Will, wow, you have accomplished so much. We can't wait for our conversation today. Welcome to our show.
Man, thanks so much for having me, Michael, Tullio. You guys are great. I just want to say this before we jump into it. This message that you are preaching and delivering is so right up my alley. I get so excited about this because I've seen it the other way. And I've also seen it when it's when you lead with love and empathy and you caring and building these great communities. I'm fired up to talk about this. So thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being part of our community too.
Absolutely. We got an all-star with us today. All right. So, Will, you went from playing alongside Peyton Manning to building one of the fastest growing fitness franchise in the country. So, first, I would like to learn what got you there. Like what prompted you to go in this direction, and what lessons from your athletic career carried over into this entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, it's as you mentioned, I founded the company in 2003. It's 2025. I'm an overnight success, right?
That's how it works.
Yeah.
20-year overnight.
Yeah, overnight success. Hey, I want to say, when I had some pivotal moments that defined me and shaped me, and the one thing that has been consistent about this is, man, I have had the heart to serve athletes the entire way. And I use that word serve because that's the way I really view coaching. I think coaching is the greatest servants out there. They're giving knowledge and time and commitment to help someone else realize their dream. And to me, that is just so important. I've always led with that. Maybe it's the fullback nature in me. I didn't want the glory. I wanted the other, I wanted to hit somebody. So somebody else is touchdown. And I just, I lead the way. I feel real fortunate to be able to lead this business for so many years. But hey, I got into this from a knee injury, as you said, and that was a really low moment. It was a pivotal moment, and I was able to take, that adversity and turn it into opportunity. But it was, I want to say, I talk about, most people that go through and do great things, they have a lonely chapter where they don't know who they are. There's fear that creeps in. And for those of you who are in that moment, maybe as a CEO or a business owner out there, man, I was there. And I was like, who am I now? I had built my whole life to become the greatest fullback that I wanted to be. I mean, I wanted to be Mike Allstott, right? And all of a sudden that was taken away from me. And all I knew what to do is just to pour all that energy and passion and excitement into something. And what I fell in love with was the weight room at the University of Tennessee. And so I wanted to replicate that. I always saw those middle school kids, and I reminded myself, like, hey, when I was in middle school, I wish I had a coach that would breathe life into me, inspire me, and motivate me, get more out of me. That's what I wanted. I wanted that. And so that's what I created. And when I started it, I started as a lifestyle company. I loved wearing t-shirt and shorts and listening to rap music and coaching kids, and telling them war stories and giving them nuggets of wisdom. And that's how I started. And then things have grown from there, and just feel real fortunate now that there's kids in small town USA able to go into a D1 and experience world-class coaching, experience what it's like to have a structured program and a coach that believes in you, a coach that comes to your games on Friday nights and watches you and is just there to cheer you on. To me, that is why we exist, is to build these communities and help these athletes reach goals.
Yeah. Will, that is the wherewithal that you demonstrated is incredible. And I'm so glad you're able to share that story really with our audience, right? Because when there are a lot of, highs and certainly a lot of lows as well, that our audience experiences. So, being able to demonstrate, a real life example is fabulous. I want to dig in a little bit more into the specific gap that you saw. And I love reading your what I call your founding story or your genesis story on your website, following your injury and kind of working out in the community gym and right, the experience that meander. So when you launched D1 back in 2003, like what was the gap that you were seeing in the fitness industry and that you really wanted to fill?
I wanted to fulfill this coaching aspect. There are a lot of great places to train, but what makes D1 unique and special is when you come there, you're going to have a great coach. You're going to have a world-class coach who's been there and done that. And not just has been there and done that, but also has the psyche of like, man, they have empathy, they have love. I use the words inspiring and motivating. They're going to motivate you to get more out of you than you think you can get out of yourself. There's plenty of places to train, but if you want a place where a coach is going to breathe life into you or into your kid, that's what we wanted to be for D1, and that's what we became. And that, as we grew, that's where we've always kept the main thing, which is to serve our athletes really well. And so ultimately we got to serve our coaches really well and our franchisees and all those things at this scale. But that's always been the main thing. So literally what I was doing in 2003, we're still doing today. We've lived through a recession, we lived through a pandemic, we've lived through these ups and downs of growing. And man, I look back and go, the reason we were able to grow through those times and continue to do it is because we always kept the main thing. We're just serving athletes. And then the second thing that I really think is we have a really strong value system. We have 4 core values at D1, and man, we preach them, and we hire to them, we fire to them, we promote to them, we award to franchisees to them. And to me, that's just everything, because the culture of the business is built on that value system. And then really the last thing as I look at it is, this goes back to my strength and conditioning days, is, man, we are hyper vigilant on just making small improvements every day. Small improvements every day. And I just think that's how you build something great. In this day and age, everybody wants to have something and you have it in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And I get it. Technology's making things happen faster, but when you're trying to build a body and like turn a person, into a phenomenal athlete, a world-class athlete, it does not happen overnight. Just like a business.
Yeah.
A business, if you want to be world-class and be around forever, it doesn't happen overnight.
All right. So let's get under the hood a little bit. You touched on it a little bit. You have these core values. You went from one location in Nashville to over 150 locations nationwide. There's a systems you've adopted, some methodology, some approach to this on how you're maintaining this cultural standard you've created, this community you've created, but also, there's a lot of challenges in maintaining accountability as you scale that big, right? So let us under the hood a little bit. What's that system you're using? Any methodology that's proving useful to you? Let's learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would go kind of 3 things if I look back and go, I wish I knew this in my, year 2 of business, 3 of business, 5 of business. One was I wish I'd picked up the book Traction, which is EOS. I don't know if y'all heard of Entrepreneurial Operating Systems by a guy named Gino. And got to give it a shout out. I'm hyper vigilant on everything business that I have. I run the communication cadence the same way. I run our staff meetings the same way. Like same time, same place. I have a VTO, which is your 2-page business plan. Man, I have been, if you're a business owner out there, I highly recommend. If you're like, man, I'm scrambled eggs with all the stuff I got going on. When you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to figure it out, you need simplicity, and so that really simplified things.
Love the book recommendations.
Yeah. The second thing is, man, I'm a big believer in what I tell my kids, which is you become who you hang around. I tell my kids, hey, son, you want to be a great quarterback? Go hang around with the best quarterbacks. You want to be, the best student, go hang around with the best students. And so I try to practice what I preach. Excuse me. So what I've done through that, one of the pivotal things I did, I joined a group called YPO, Young Presidents Organization. I've been in it 12 years now or something like that. And for those of you CEOs out there, if you're I would highly recommend it. And what I love about it is they put you in a group of 8 people, different industries. You normally, like, you get in your 30s or whatever, you're like, your friend circles are not really changing. And man, this shit changed my friend circle. All of a sudden I got in with somebody who's a banker, somebody who's in real estate, and it really opened my eyes, and I was able to receive feedback from these people to really help reshape the trajectory of my life and my business. And so I do think who you hang around is really important, And then last but not least, like, I got to give one of the things that I think has really helped me kind of pave the way for the future is I really track my past. Because I feel like you have to look back to connect the dots to see where you're going.
Yeah.
And so I'm a hyper journaler. I got my journal right here. I have one for every year. I've been doing this since college. So I can go back and look at my decisions that I was making in college. And then I'm so like crazy about it. I have it in a spreadsheet. So I have my assistant.
That's next level self-awareness.
That's what a great practice.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I'd say too, like, be able to digitize that, now with AI and see what that yields you as far as what you learn. That would be incredible. I'm sure you could write an incredible memoir or book on that. In a minute, Will, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about kind of this systems piece and, some of the first steps that maybe you would suggest. But before we do that, I'm actually really curious about your values system. Certainly in the franchise model, right? You want every location to feel the same. So I'm also curious, within the franchise universe or the franchise model, and as well, maybe with like the value system that you have, how does that all come into play? I would guess in your success across all these franchises. Like, what are you doing to keep it consistent?
Yeah, I think first of all, you know, an old I use a lot of sports adages. Apologize.
It's all good.
I'm a big believer in winning in the draft. You know, if you draft Tom Brady, you're going to win some football games.
Winning in the draft.
When we pick franchisees, we are picking our draft. We need them to have not only the know-how and the capital, but we also need them to have the value system.
Got it.
So when they have the value system, then they're going to hire and they're going to win in the draft. They're going to hire people that have the same value system. And so it starts there. The second part of this is, man, we have what we call a playbook, which are processes. And we have a process for everything. And we're constantly enhancing, improving those. 20 plus years in business, you know, we've kind of seen it all, but then you're enhancing it. And so it's just like iteration on iteration on iteration of the playbook. And simplifying and simplifying and simplifying. And so it's like win in the draft, follow the playbook, and then do it with purpose.
Oh, okay.
And do it with purpose. To me, intentionality, I like to interplay intentionality and purpose, those words, like being intentional about your days, being intentional going, you know what, when that kid shows up for that personal training session, coach, like you got to treat them like Peyton Manning walked in the door. How would you act if Peyton Manning walked in the door and you were training Peyton Manning? Right. And so just think having purpose behind what we're doing every day really sets people apart. It sets companies apart because the reality is, we're in a transactional world, right? Like you press a button, something shows up at your door. And when someone is intentional in your life and looks at you and go, man, you did a great job today. It's more than just, you got the work done. It's like, man, you got reinforced through community. You got reinforced by another person, another human saw you. And I think that's what, you know, then you have these feelings. You talked about love earlier, and it's like the love of life, love of everything we're doing is ultimately what we all want to feel. And so, man, we want to create environments where that is happening.
Before you go to the question, real quick, Mike, I'm hearing something that's speaking my language. So I've been a big proponent of design thinking for many years. In fact, I've contributed to a lot of thought around design thinking, even at the university levels, and advised to programs. And I have now evolved that into what I call intention-based design, which is the combination of empathy and purpose, which is what you just described. You know, it's like bridging the power of empathy, which is design thinking, and then purpose, you know, being purpose and intentional. So you just described intention-based design to a T. It's beautiful how you hear companies that are doing that, because nothing happens unless you design it with intention. So it's beautiful to hear. But just wanted to throw that out there. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're definitely speaking our language, you know, Will, when you're talking about, you know, purpose. One of the questions, actually, I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit in terms of the show, since we're on the topic of purpose. I love to ask all of our guests, you know, this point is that what in your view, right, what is the point of having a really well-defined purpose? What's its role? And then can you maybe give us some examples about, you know, beyond just the coaching example that you just gave, about how that's, you know, sort of serving within your organization?
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to interchange purpose with goals. I think all of us have goals in life. And I think that is a human need of ours is to grow, right? Like we need to grow and evolve. And even as a 46-year-old man who's trying to have a better marriage, be a better father, run a better business, like I have to set my goal out there, and I have to be intentional on how I get there. Because I could put a goal up on the board all day long and go, this is what I want to do. But if I don't have any intention on doing it, I'm never going to do it. And so to me, it starts with goals and then getting real intentional about the daily habits. I like to take my goals and break them down in micro steps. And this is, once again, this is my strength and conditioning background of going, hey, if I want to bench press, 315 pounds and I'm at 200 pounds today, it's like, okay, how do I close that gap of 115 pounds over a year-long training program? And so you have to break it down day by day to go, hey, I'm going to be adding a 2.5 here, right? This sets, reps, and then that's going to get you there. And so to me, that's being super intentional to every day showing up and getting a little better and better and better. And don't get me wrong, there's setback days. And then you always just got to remember setbacks my coach used to always say setbacks are usually setups. So, I like to always use that one where it's like, hey, you get knocked down because you tried something and it didn't work. And then, or maybe you were on the path and you need to adjust. And so that's just being intentional about knowing where you're at. That's why I like to look back before I go forward and go, what have I been doing to how I'm going to go forward? And I do all this, I will tell you, like, if you get to know me, my personality is like, man, I just love life and I love people. And, God, I feel like has blessed me with the ability to just really enjoy everything I'm doing. Whether it was hitting, 300-pound defensive ends and on playing fullback, or whether it was, flying out visiting sites and running staff meetings. To me, I just really enjoy life.
Yeah.
I admire everything you said. Here's what I heard. Okay. One, it takes humility to recognize you're not going to go from point A to point B overnight. You have to be willing to do the steps. And then it also takes patience and perseverance and persistence. And then love for people, which includes loving yourself. I mean, if you're trying to get from point A to point B overnight, that's not really showing yourself a whole lot of love. Doing it in a way that's humble and patient and persistent. Right. There's no silver bullet around this kind of thing, and it's a beautiful lesson in anything. And this is something, unfortunately, a lot of the young ones still struggling with today. They want to go from point A to point B overnight, and it just doesn't work that way, does it? So it's beautiful to hear the way you express it, because the reality is that's what it takes is that patience, that humility, and the persistence to be committed to something on the long term.
Yeah, it's hard, right? I try to express this to my kids, like, that is something I was intentional about building these beliefs. I was intentional about building these values within my life. And so for me, when I look back on my days, like in my 20s, I was very bullish, very aggressive, very like, okay. I look back and go, man, I wish I could have coached myself then to go, man, document all these lessons, make sure you understand it even more, why these things happen, what were the setbacks to the setups. And then I got in my 30s and it was like, man, I really felt like the company I had built and the things I was like, man, I want to monetize. I want to understand I want to get around smart people. And I'm tired of thinking I have all the answers. So I let go a little bit. And in my 40s, I've like really let go. And I've been like, man, I just want to serve people and I want to serve them well. And so it's funny how like time as you age and all those things, everything. Yeah.
It is, because when you're young, you have a certain conviction that you've got it all figured out. And wake up 10 years later, I'm like, man, that was arrogant. And then you realize that the only conviction you have is that you really don't know.
That's
and
right.
when you stay open to not knowing, that's when you actually grow and learn. So I'm just laughing like, man, that is the natural evolution. The most mature people is that they realize what I thought I knew it all.
I never thought that would be me, right? I never thought that, you're like, I'm never going to be like my dad. Yes. I think, in my 30s, I was hyper vigilant on ROI. So return on investment. I was so intentional. How do I get a return on investment on everything I do? And I think in my 40s, I had a massive shift. Several years ago where everything in my life started to become, it was an ROI. but everything started being the return on impact ROI. And I started looking at like, hey, if I can impact this general manager, or if I can impact a coach, or hey, I can jump on a podcast and impact a business owner out there. That is everything to me. That fills me up. And so I feel like that's the servant mindset that I try to approach every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to just see the real life example of, essentially, climbing up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like you're starting, perhaps your sense of purpose probably became so much bigger, and it aligns so well with what we talk about on this show when it comes to conscious capitalism, right? And we had a guest that was on, actually two guests that come to mind as you were talking. It was the CEO of another franchise organization called Celebrate Schools, and their purpose is to grow people big and small. And I connect that with a purpose of one of our life coaches that was on the show, and she would say that the purpose basically gives you like what is my hell yes and what is my hell no, right? Because you're going to continue to drive, and it just makes that decision making so much easier. So love to see the ROI really standing for return on impact, because it's a beautiful thing, right? It shows a very high conscious leader. And I think, something that many organizations today are lacking and unfortunately need so much. So, Will, maybe taking it back to community, because obviously, as you explained, community is an important element of your organization. For our other CEOs, other entrepreneurs that are out there that are trying to build that sense of community, what would you say should be some of their first steps to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think first steps are,
and if I could add, so it doesn't feel transactional, because it's easy to make it
right.
transactional. That's the thing. You've cracked the code on making it feel human and loving. Transaction's easy to accomplish. So we're curious to see what's how did you crack the code on that? Because that's hard. That's hard stuff.
To me, everything it is a value exchange. It is an exchange. When you're, even when you're serving people, it's an exchange. They're getting something more than you, and you're giving more than you're getting. Yeah. And so it's a value exchange. So I look at it and go, start with thinking of your end customer and going, what are all the possibilities I could give them that would mean the world? What value, what do they really value? And if you listed out everything, typically when you start knocking off some of the things that have cost of goods, that maybe might run your business red, there's a lot of things that you can do that don't cost much at all. Take a little time, like when our coaches go to the sport of the kid that they're coaching, it's like, man, you think about a value exchange. A parent sees the coach in the stands watching them and critiquing it. I mean, they don't have to do that. That's not what they're paying us to do. Yeah. You think about it when we send nutrition guidance and stuff, and then psychological guidance on like how to prepare for games, post game. Like when our athletes are getting these things, it's like, man, this is way more than just coming in and working with a coach. So you really want to think through when you're thinking of your end users, like how much value can you give? And that exchange to me is like, then that's when you got a great business, when you're giving way more than what you're getting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the impact for sure. But one of the things that maybe you could share a real life story with us. We love, obviously real world examples. I'm sure you've got a ton. But really, can you share a story with us of, say, either a client or community, whose life was really transformed by D1's model?
Yeah, we have so many. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is one of our franchisees, a guy named Joe Stanford. He trained the inner city high school football team, and obviously they couldn't afford it, and so he went and raised the capital from local businesses to be able for them to train. And during the training, and this team had like some studs on it. They had like a couple 4 stars. While they were training, we would go on campus and train them. He noticed that their weight room was pretty shabby. So much when they were doing max day, one of the big offensive linemen went to rack 500 pounds on the squat, and a J hook broke and almost injured. Thank God nobody got injured. Yeah. And so he took it upon himself to go to all these other businesses and ended up raising over $100,000 to rebuild their weight. I mean, that's the type of impact that we're making in these communities. We're just giving back and being there for those needs. It's not just about, the kids coming in and training. It's about all the whole community and really giving back. So we have so many stories. I can tell y'all so many. It's
no, that's just such a great example. What I love too about it is like, I talk about the art of the win-win-win. So it wasn't just the kids that won there, or the coach in that particular location, but as well, like your whole organization won because of that. So I think it's just such a beautiful. I know some people talk about like your triple bottom line, like people, planet, and profit. Very similar, I guess, to the art of the win-win-win. I love those kinds of examples, right? Because it's not just this transaction between two parties. It creates something much bigger.
That's right.
Will, we're talking about the power of community and connection in business, and you shared some of the stories of that success. What have you learned from those stories in terms of the value of creating community and connection that you want to share with other CEOs as a valuable thing that they ought to take into consideration?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the main learnings that I've had have been out in the field. I like to, when you get to the CEO seat or you're managing things, a lot of times we can sit behind these computers and we can just look at the KPIs and not realize the impact we're making or understand how can we make a better impact. And so getting out in the field is super important to me. Sitting down with clients and asking them, hey, how can we serve you better? I just recently called all our franchisees and did one-on-one conversations, several hundred phone calls. And one of the question I led with was, how can I serve you better? And I learned so much going into their locations and doing these calls. I learned so much, like, hey, here's how we can improve and enhance. Because I don't think for you business owners, you don't have to be perfect. Perfection actually is like there's no perfect out there. You don't have to be perfect, but what you have to do is you have to have an intentional desire to keep growing and improving and improving. It's just like you guys. I mean, if you've been to a restaurant, and you had a bad experience.
Yeah,
you would go back if they're like, I'm so sorry, that was a bad experience. You would go back, and if they got a little bit better, you might fall in love with the place. And so we really just want to make sure we're leading with that constantly. It's like, hey, how do we get in the field, know our customers, serve them really well, and keep improving? Because we have mistakes just like everybody. I mean, look, we're by no means perfect. And so we're aspirational there, but.
That's perfect. Nice. So maybe I think we covered our thought around purpose, but there's a connection there with the values. Maybe for our audience, if you can just sort of give us a sense of what in your organization is the connection behind that goal, that intentionality, that purpose, and these values. Like, how do they work together, would you say?
Yeah. So when I'm speaking of values, we have 4 core values. One is be a team player. The other one is have passion for our work. The third one is find a way, make a smart play. And the last one is D1 character. D1 character. And so those are, when I say them, you're like, okay, that's our values. We have definitions beyond them, so you really can grasp it. But I think how you're ultimately trying to connect the value system with the mission you're on.
Right.
to me, the mission is kind of like your North Star. Hey guys, this is where we're going. This is the mission you're on. You've chose to sign up and be here. This is the mission. The value systems is how we're going to operate amongst each other.
Right.
And so like one of the things underneath the core values is like, man, we're a positive, inspiring, and motivating place. That's how we're going to speak to each other. We're going to show up with positivity. We're going to show up with solutions to our questions. We're going to, and that just permeates throughout the whole organization. So when you decide everybody's going by this value system, it's like you can't show up and not have that value system.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly preaching that. And so if you're a business out there, I get really clear on the mission you're on and get really clear on your core values. I think it's my job, like literally, I think it's one of my main jobs, is to drive this culture. My team, they laugh at me. When they start making fun of you and joking about you, you said it enough, and you probably said it enough. You're repeating yourself a lot, and so man, I repeat it nonstop just because I think it's that important.
I love how you've touched on. We've talked about this before. We even talk about it when we are being intentional on how we design or how we operate as a company. You've touched on 4 key tenets of highly engaged cultures. One, you touched on the desire to be becoming, to grow. I mean, that's like why the self-help industry is like $1 trillion, right? And then you talked on the desire to make an impact. We all have it. We want to make an impact. But now you just touched on giving meaning behind what you're doing. That's what really values, gives meaning to what you're doing. It stands for something. And then the North Star, which is to belong to something greater than yourself. What is the mission, the bigger mission you're trying to accomplish? Yeah. And I just love how you put it all together, because those 4 things is what creates really engaged cultures. And we living in a time when only 31% of employees are engaged, according to Gallup, which means on a $10 million budget for salaries, you're getting 3 months worth of work. You might as well send people home for 9 months and only work 3 months. That's what's really happening out there, because most organizations are not being intentional about leveraging or balancing these 4 key elements. But there's another element too, and this is a key question we ask all of our guests that come on the show. And we're up at that time now as we come to the end here. And, a Harvard Business School study found that compassionate leaders have a 41% higher customer satisfaction. And so it's clear that the role of compassion has in leadership. And we dare say that love plays a role in business as well. What are your thoughts about love in business? Is there a place for love in business? And what does that look like?
Absolutely. I think the best way for me to define love is I'm going to go spiritual here. Like, love is heaven. So when you're in love, you're in euphoria, you feel great, whether you're in love with your business, you're in love with what you're doing, you're in love with your spouse, you're in love with your kids. Like, man, it's euphoria. It's like the best thing. The antithesis of that to me is fear. And for those business owners right now that you're feeling fear, that is hell. Right? I've been there. And to me, the place for love, I want all of my team members to be in love with their job, in love with what they do for work, in love with our customers. And the way to do that is it is a mind game. It is a mind game. It's a heart game, but it's also a mind game, because the mind, this ego part of our brain can quickly go, oh man, I didn't hit my number. I'm going to get fired. I'm in fear. And we got to quickly get out of fear and go to love. And so to me, everything is like, okay, if I ever feel that fear emotion, is how quickly can I get out of it and realize, hey, it's triggering me to go, hey, how do I fall in love with something else? I don't hit the number. I'm going to fall in love with the process to hit the number. And then I'm going to hit the number, right? Because the reality is the journey for every entrepreneur, every business owner out there is up and down and up and down and up and down. And as I sit here and I look at myself, I'm like, man, I thought I made it like 25 times, And so it's like, I haven't made it still. And I'm going to continue to do this because I just think that is human beings want to grow. And when you find yourself not wanting to grow, man, watch out. That's when idle hands can get you in trouble.
Right.
So, man, I love that. And it's true. Love and fear cannot coexist. They just cannot coexist. It's one or the other. You can't have both. That's so beautiful.
Well, yeah, you've done a beautiful job helping us today really understand what kind of organization you've built, what it I would say not even just what D1 training is, but really what it feels like. For those listeners that want to learn a little bit more about you or learn a little bit more about D1, where would you like them to go?
Yeah, check out d1training.com, d1training.com. Literally it's D and then the one, training.com, and check us out. Franchise. You can see what our franchise locations are near you. We'd love to serve your athletes and coach them up. And we believe everyone's an athlete, by the way. So we do train not just scholastic athletes, but adult athletes as well. So if you got a goal, come see us. We'd love to inspire and motivate you to get there.
Yep. Well, true ROI, with impact. Love it.
It's been really great to have you. Thank you for joining us today. And if today's conversation sparked new ideas about building community and connection in business, share with someone who would benefit from it. And until the next time, thank you for listening and watching the Bliss Business Podcast.